right, well, Argentines head to the polls today for midterm legislative elections that could shape President Javier Milei's economic future. The vote will test support for his controversial free market reforms and austerity measures. Milei's party, La Libertad Avanza, hopes to gain more seats in Congress to secure investor confidence and U.S. backing. The White House has praised Milei's progress in reduction of inflation and achieving a fiscal surplus. However, his popularity has dipped due to cuts in public spending and a corruption scandal involving his sister. A strong showing in the elections could help Milei push through his economic agenda. Mark Sutherland, geopolitical expert, is joining us from London at this point in time. Mark, appreciate you joining us. Well, what do you make of these midterm elections? For most part, people are hailing what the economic situation in Argentina looks like today. Of course, there's been a long-standing ban on selling dollars. There are other restrictions that have been done away with, which of course have led to the popularity of the current leader. But is it going to, in fact, continue beyond this point in time? And let's not forget that the American support also matters a lot here.
Well, Vinny, good to be with you, and it's interesting to hear Andrew's comments, your previous guest, because it's all within that same theatre influence and concern that America has. Milei has come in as a populist leader, has wanted to then release this whole power of privatization to empower people to be able to run their own business, run their own lives. And as you quite rightly say, the problem is when there is that smell of the incident with his sister, that this may not particularly help on one level in regard to the elections that are coming up. It's always about the ideological fight that is constantly going on within South America, and also that other countries, Paraguay, Ecuador, Bolivia, are then looking to Argentina, in my humble opinion, because then they want to get out of the previous ideological mire of thinking of collectivization, and are then looking to Milei, to Argentina, of how they are being able to progress and empower people. And they are looking at what is happening in Argentina closely. And of course, all of this within then using the capitalist system, that is a system that's taken more people out of poverty than any other system. That, of course, is number one within America, is what they stand on. Hence why this focus from them right now in regard to what's going on. Hence why Milei has pushed through all of his policies through in this particular way, to then increase privatization, to cut back welfare spending, and with the then empowering people to fill that gap themselves with being able to run their own businesses. So you and I need a number of hours to discuss all this, but that's my assessment.
You're quite right about that. Stay with us. In fact, meanwhile, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent reassured that American taxpayers won't lose funds from U.S. support for Argentina. This comes as the U.S. bought Argentine pesos and secured a $20 billion currency swap with Argentina's central bank. Bessent further emphasized that the U.S. is backing a Latin American ally during its key election. Bessent stressed that the move was from the Treasury's Exchange Stabilization Fund and is not a bailout. He said it has never registered a loss. The U.S. is also buying pesos on the open market to stabilize the currency. Bessent added that the support aims to prevent Argentina from facing the same crisis as Venezuela. Mark, in fact, Donald Trump was very, very clear about that. He said the $20 billion bailout for Argentina is going to be rescinded if Milei suffers a defeat at the hands of a socialist or a communist, ending this alliance or a transactional relationship with Argentina at this point in time. Pretty straightforward.
Absolutely. And as your previous guest, Andrew, was talking about Taiwan, China, We're talking, this is an ideological fight that is going on across the world. We have to remember in the Biden administration, the sort of convoy of people walking to the American border to cross over illegally into the American border. This is an ideological fight. You then turn to what President Trump has been addressing within America in regard to illegal immigration, in regard to then addressing people that are within the country, dealing with Antifa, BLM. All of these things are relevant because he's then, as I mentioned earlier, before you were quite rightly talking about this, Besant's comments, is all relevant because it's all tied in with that ideology. It's about building up a bulwark within South America. And when you mention Venezuela, let's just remind ourselves. Previously, it was it is a wealthy country asset-wise, has all of that oil that it needs to be drilling out and selling, and then being able to empower people to run their own lines and set up their own businesses. You have used the word communist quite rightly. This is the ideology that we are then dealing with. That someone like Trotsky would be extremely pleased to see that ideology has gone around the world in the spreading that ideology and thought pattern and then behavior around the world. And that is what President Trump, his administration, and those countries within South America then want to push back on and be a bulwark against that, Vineet.
All right. Mark, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for your perspective. All right, moving on. Kurds in Turkey's